Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas, everyone. I hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas day, December the 25th. We are fully into Boxing Week, and we're back with another Express Entry Live Q&A. We'll see how many people are up and at her early this morning or late in the evening. If you're on the other side of the world, please, as always, post comments on where you're from, where you're tuning in from, and we'll see how many people are here for our live session today. It is great being here. My name is Mark Holthe. I am a Canadian immigration lawyer, and I am the founder of the Canadian Immigration Institute. That is the, well, this is the host of this whole DIY live Q&A world that we have on all of our various social channels. If you're a first-time viewer, and this is the first time you're watching, this is my opportunity as an immigration lawyer to give back. So what I do is I allow individuals to post questions that they have about various aspects of a Canadian immigration. In our world of permanent residence, express entry tends to drive the ship for a lot of people. But I'm open to answering questions from people all over. So let's see who we have tuning in. So we've got someone who's tuning in on the Express Entry Law private Facebook group. We've got a Facebook user there. And this goes out to a bunch of different channels. We've got Muhammad. Hello, Muhammad. Good to have you. Merry Christmas, everybody, and a Happy New Year. Joyce is over in Nigeria. Welcome, Joyce. Sharif is here from Qatar. Shalia is watching from Calgary. Hello, Shalia. It's definitely a lot nicer weather. I went with my family and we went skiing up and let's see if I can find it here. We went skiing. I wonder if I have some of the pictures that I can share at Lake Louise, something I had never done before. And let's just see here. They've got some big old chairs there up in Lake Louise. And if you guys, I don't know how many people have actually skied in Canada, if you've been here or in your country, but I'm just going to pull up a little picture here that I'll share with you in my downloads. I'm going to drag this onto the screen in just a little bit while we're waiting for people to connect in. I'll share a few pictures of what the Holthe crew did over Christmas. And yes, and here is, well, almost the whole Holthe crew, because one of my sons is down in Chile, if you're down in South America, serving a mission for our church. And so Connor wasn't with us, but the rest of the crew was. And so we got a couple pictures, and yesterday we went up skiing at Lake Louise, which is the first time we've ever been up there. So yeah, we're having a lot of fun. Okay, let's see who else we have here tuning in. We've got Mendu is over in South Africa. Welcome, Mendu. Good to see you. Sparrow, it's great to have you connect in as well from India. Welcome. And yes, Shalia says, yes, Lake Louise is very nice. And Joseph says, compliment of the season. Thank you so much, Joseph. That really means a lot. Okay, wrong button here. Let's do this. And I'm just going to pull onto my screen here just a few pictures. So this is the fam right here. See if it'll pull on. There we go. So there is the Holthe family. There's us, and Simba's got his hat on too. And so there's my wife and the kids and our Christmas tree, and that's our family photo that we took for Christmas. We tend to do that. Let's see what else we've got here. And this is where we went. This is the largest chair that I've ever been on, a lift chair. So all 5 of us fit on here. So this is up skiing up at Lake Louise. So this is all of the crew here. So lots of fun. That's what we like to do here in Canada. And so if you guys are wondering, hey, what's it like living in Canada? Well, that's one of the perks, is being able to ski. And the weather was actually really, really nice, you guys. All right, let's see who else we've got here tuning in. We've got Joseph is from Liberia. Awesome. Thanks for connecting in. And yes, we've got Peter Spare here. Hello. Hopefully you're just about ready, my friend, for us to get your permanent residence moving forward. Thank you, Shalia. I appreciate that comment. All right. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to talk about one other thing that I wanted to announce to everybody before we get into the live Q&A portion. And really, we can talk about anything that you want. We're going to go probably to just about 11 o'clock today. answering all of your questions. And we'll give a shout out for Alva there down in Peru. Happy holidays to you as well. A longtime follower. Very cool. All right, so I want to share just a couple little things with you guys before we jump into the Q&A portion. And the one main thing that I want to announce, as you can see from the ticker that's ticking along the bottom, is that we, just after much request, you guys, after considerable request, I had decided that I was never going to do this, but because we're going to be updating some of the courses and because we're going to be making changes, I made the decision, you guys, right here, to offer a Boxing Week sale. So what is this? This is 50% off selected courses within the Canadian Immigration Institute. So if you scroll down here and remember the code here is Boxing Day 50 CII. If you've always wondered what are these courses and you see one that appeals to you, and I want to give a big shout out, the study permit, the first one that we launched there just this last week was awesome. I had a phenomenal group of people. I'm really happy with how the course turned out. And it is chock full of just a ton of information to help guide people looking to apply for study permits. We finally got our CPD accreditation literally on the last day of the course, confirmed that there is CPD hours for immigration consultants. The spousal sponsorship course, you can see each of these are all at 50% off. So we've got the study permit, the spousal sponsorship course, the post-grad course, and of course, express entry here. And all you have to do is click on learn more and buy now. And then when you go in, you can see this is until December the 31st using that code. If you click on buy now, you will then enter your information in. And when you type in the coupon code right here and then redeem it, you can see you're getting 50% off. So this is a rock bottom price. I've never offered it at this. Now, the only difference between the course offering and what's traditionally available is that there's not a masterclass associated with this. So essentially for 50%, it's all of the course materials. And if you go through and you look at the channel and you look at all the courses, it's everything in there. There's over 10 hours of content. It's just the 4-hour live masterclass session. That is the only difference that is not bundled with the actual the price, that the 50% off price. So there you go, you guys. Yes, backed by popular demand. It's been a long time since I chose to do that, but we decided to break down and for all of you fine folks, allow you an opportunity for our special Boxing Week sale to access those select courses using that coupon code and getting them off. And the offer is only valid until December 31st. So just a couple more days away. All right. So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all of you guys. All righty, let's jump in and see what other comments we have coming through, and then we'll jump to our questions. Let's see if we have anyone else that is giving shout out. Sophie's was over in Kenya. Great to have you. Pooja, great to see you. Happy holidays to you. Anitha says, thank you, Mark, for showing your family. OMG, they're gorgeous. Well, I love my kids. I think they're awesome. Peter says, just need one more test, hopefully next week. All right, my friend. I'm waiting anxiously to help you. Unique Promise here. Thank you. You're very, very welcome. And she says, I'm definitely subscribing for the Express Entry course. Great. And I know that it will help you guys. I know it will. All right. Amongst Us, good to see you. Thanks for connecting in. Frequent follower. And let's see what else. I think that's it. Okay. So I'm going to go back through the questions now, and you can start posting your questions. As always, what I like, because sometimes you guys communicate back and forth, what I like to see is a question like this, where it has a Q in front of it. And that Q is the thing that tells me that this indeed is a question and not you guys just communicating back and forth. So make sure you've posed your question with a Q, and then we'll know that this is one that you want me to answer. Okay, so let's start off here. So Monsoon says, do you think if IRCC is going to include the family members to get a work permit if they are a PR and not just work permit? Okay, I think the question is, will they approve a work permit if you have a permanent resident application in the queue? Obviously, and this is something I talk about at length in the study permit course, there is something called bona fides, and they have the ability to assess whether or not you'll return back to your home country if a temporary application is submitted. And in some cases, IRCC takes the position that if a family member is already the subject of a permanent resident application, then maybe the intention is not temporary. In other words, maybe it's permanent. Now, within the legislation, there's the concept of dual intent that is there, which basically says I can intend to one day become a permanent resident, but at the same time have an intention to comply fully with my temporary conditions on my stay. But some visa officers make that a little bit more difficult. But Monsoon, the reality is if you're applying for any type of a work permit for your family and you have a PR application in the queue, they can't just refuse the work permit because of the PR. There has to be grounds to support it in addition to it because of the dual intent. But when I'm submitting those applications, I make darn sure when I'm doing them that I'm addressing that dual intent provision within the act and making sure that I'm just going to pull this up here so that you guys can see what I'm referring to here when I talk about dual intent. So let's just slide over here so you guys can see this. So this is the government's program delivery instructions on dual intent. So is present when a foreign national who has applied or may apply for permanent residence in Canada also applies to enter Canada for a temporary period, visitor, student, worker. So when I'm submitting my application, I include this with my application. So having two intents, one for temporary and one for permanent, is legitimate. And this section addresses how to apply. And this is the section 22 of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. So 22 sub 2 says that dual intent, an intention by a foreign national to become a permanent resident, does not preclude them from becoming a temporary resident if the officer is satisfied they will leave Canada by the end of the period authorized for their stay. So your job is to satisfy this officer here that you will leave Canada by the end of the period authorized for their stay. So I know this is a long answer, Monsoon, to your question, but I'm going to give you a very, very light applause here because that was a great question. Thank you so much. Okay, let's see who's next on the question. All right. Okay, Bashir, right at the beginning, asked this question. Is NOC 12200 accounting bookkeeper well needed on Canada in 2023 with a score of 449? This is one where I ring that bell and I say, Bashir, there is no way to know 100% what the country is looking at in terms of labor shortages. Now, let me take that back. Is an accounting bookkeeper needed in Canada in 2023? Well, maybe, right? Maybe an accounting bookkeeper is, but there are so many factors at play when we're trying to assess whether or not there's an actual need. The provinces have their own labor and salary surveys who determine what their needs are. The minister likely in the spring will start to work off of it. And I want to let you guys know, as well, if you have not seen it on the YouTube channel, and I go to this, I point this out just about every single time that I can. I'm gonna pull it up again. Once again, that's what I do. Let me just share my screen with you. I'm gonna shrink this picture down here. Okay, so if you go here to our channel and click on videos, obviously everything is supportable. But if you scroll down, you will see here, we've got a lot of this TR to PR, the top 6 takeaways. You want to watch this one because in this, I go through a breakdown of the actual areas that I think the minister is really going to be looking at. I'll also point out here on our firm website, we have our blog posts. And then I have, let's see if this works. I have my top 6. Let's see if I can pull it up. I've had issues with our search feature here on our blog post. Man, that's irritating. I don't know why it's not working. I think it's probably my Mac. But I'm going to just scroll down here till I get the immigration levels plans, tier, automated, rounds of invitation. Man, I can't even remember. We've got so many, we have so many articles here. There it is. So my top 6 list of key takeaways from the minister's report. And if you haven't watched this before and you're wondering, well, which like you can watch the video, obviously, which sectors are ones that the minister specifically highlighted? Well, they're these ones: health, hospitality, transportation, trades and resources, IT, engineering, agri-food, agriculture, construction, professional services. Okay, does it include within professional services? You know, how broad is that? Could accounting, bookkeeping be considered within that? Well, maybe. scientific and technical services. So these are the ones that the minister specifically highlighted in his report that he issued on the direction immigration or Canada is taking to expand transitions for permanent residence for people who are temporary residents in Canada. So there's a lot of different factors that you look at when you're trying to assess or answer this question, Bashir. However, I do want to let you know that the best thing to do when you're in that situation is, and I'm going to slide over here once again to our firm website. The best thing that you can do is book a consult and let us assess exactly what your options are. And so we've got all of the lawyers in the firm are available to have a consultation with you. Okay. All right. And obviously, like I've said repeatedly, but some people don't realize, it's not just the consult. We represent you. Like we literally help you to prepare and make sure your application is done right the first time. All right. Let's see what else we have here. Next question as we dive into them. I know a bunch have come through. Faisal says, how can I convert a visitor visa into a work visa without an LMI in Canada? Faisal, this is one, I'll say triangle. It just doesn't work that way. You absolutely need to have an employer supporting you in some form or fashion. There is no pathway for a visitor visa into just an open work permit. The LMIA process is designed to show there's no Canadian or permanent resident who can do the job. Now, there are other options. If you marry a Canadian and you apply for a work permit through that, there's other work permit options through the International Mobility Program. If you go to school, things like that, but there is no converting a visitor visa to just an open work permit. Okay. Let's see what's next here. Baltiwood says, I'm applying for the 18-month extension outside Canada, but in the application, they're asking for current employer and employment contract. But I thought I don't have to give all this since it's open up work permit. Okay. This is Baltiwood. This is what I want you to do. I want you to go right here. Okay. And you can see if I go back, go to the link below to the Canadian Immigration Institute. And right here is my 18-month extension course. And if you click on here, you go to subscribe and we open it up here. You can see if you use this code right here, you are going to get 50% off of this already low price. So you're effectively going to get it for $103.43. So that's US. So make sure that's the one thing I would recommend, because you don't have to answer all those things in the form. No, you don't. You can indicate that it's an open work permit, but there is specific terminology and language that you have to include in that work permit application to make sure that you're meeting all of the requirements of the 18-month extension. Okay. So when you're applying, the postgrad, the course can give you instruction. Okay. All right. Let's see what's next here. Tanvir says, hello, I wanted to ask, when is the PNP draw expected for telecommunication technicians in Ontario? No clue. No clue. All right. Kier says, why it's taking longer for eCoper after application is being approved? Is this year's quota issued? There's a queue in virtual landings. No, they're just delayed. Like, I don't know why. They must have like 2 people assigned to issuing these. And I can't answer that, Cure. We've had another client who's also been kind of stuck waiting in limbo. And it's taken over 2 months sometimes for these eCopers. So I don't have an answer. I've stopped trying to understand. It's just been really, really disappointing to figure out what's going on in the minds of the officers and why these processing times are the way they are. Millions of dollars has been put into the process to address processing. And well, yeah, why is it taking that long for an eCoper? It makes no sense at all. Okay, let's see who's next. Okay, Sparrow says, I've applied for my TRV outside Canada. I have a work permit. I have a work permit is taking longer than usual. Is there any way to to speed up the process? No, there isn't, Sparrow. It's first in, first out. Okay, let's see here. And we'll try to get a good mix here. Okay, Joseph says he applied for a temporary visa through Ghana and I've completed my application May 6, 2022. Since then, I have not heard from immigration yet. So what should I do now? That's a simple one. I want you to slide right over here to our website and click and book a link, a consult with Cedric. Cedric is our reconsideration and rejection meister. He also, and this is within, if you go to our legal help, You can see there's apply for a writ of mandamus. Ultimately, this may also be a possibility where Cedric has the ability to file a court application to force IRCC to move forward and make a decision on applications that are stalled out. So I encourage you, Joseph, to click on the link below and consider that. Okay, Unique says, I just concluded my graduate studies. My study permit is still valid till March 2023, while my TRV is valid for 10 years. I intend to travel home for a month. By next month, hope no issues. Well, if you leave and re-enter before the expiry of your study permit and you have a path explaining what you're doing, then as long as that visa is valid, you're usually not going to have an issue. But remember, every time you leave the country, you're subject to an assessment by the border officer to make sure that you still continue to comply. But if everything is aligned, there typically isn't any issues. But if you leave and commit a crime, if there's a, if you can't demonstrate to the officer what your plan is going forward, I don't know what your situation is in terms of applying for your post-grad work permit. I'm not sure where that's at. If you have a post-grad work permit that is pending, remember, if you leave and then re-enter while you're in maintain status, you will not have the ability typically to return to full-time study. So there's a lot of factors at play. And Unique, if you are planning on leaving, I recommend once again that you book a consult. We can sort through that. Okay, any chances to have a draw next week? Well, there's always a possibility. And we've been sitting here waiting, wondering. The express entry system obviously has got some issues, and whether that's the main problem, which I suspect it probably is, or whether they've just shut things down for the year. This is immigration, and it's super, super frustrating. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Aisha says, hey, Mark, for a visit visa for my father, who should the invitation letter from me be addressed to the visa officer or to my father? Thanks. It doesn't really make a difference. It really doesn't. Ultimately, I probably would address it to the visa officer and in support of the, inviting your father to come. It's kind of a dual purpose, these invitation letters. They come in a lot of different forms. The most important part is really your father's ties to his home country, his ability to support himself. Those things are really the most important in the context of a visitor application, even more so than a family member inviting. And then as far as a visit visa, is it a super visa, Yisha, that you're looking to apply for? Is the proper medical insurance in place? Do you have the other elements of the super visa in place? Those are all things that you should take into consideration. Okay, let's see what else is here. Okay, so Monsoon says, backup question. I meant to ask the question in regards to the new program. Yeah, we just don't know. Other than that list that I shared with you, family members to get a work permit if they are on a work permit. So coming on for the family members to get a work permit if they're on a work permit. Well, the provisions are outside of whatever the minister is doing for permanent residence. The ability, if you're working in a skilled occupation, tier 3 or higher, you are, your spouse is eligible to apply for an open work permit. And there's going to be changes coming as well to even soften that requirement for individuals that may be working on lower wage, lower skill positions to be able to bring family members. Even dependent children we're going to see here roll over in the new year. So those are all factors to take into consideration. Okay, Tanvir, yes, I don't have a clue when telecommunication technicians may be pulled in to notifications of interest in Ontario. I just don't know. Yes, Unique, how do we ask questions at the end of the Express Entry course since the live class will not happen? In the new year, we are setting up new groups where people can subscribe and be a part of our community group for $20 a month. And in there, I'm going to host all of the live Q&As. And once you log in and you register, you then have the ability to take those classes in the future and continue, as long as you're paying the $20 a month, to be able to continue benefiting from those master classes. So so that's something that people, you'll be able to do in the future. Other than that, Unique, it's just, if you have questions, just book a consultation directly with one of our lawyers and then we can assist. Okay. Mohammed, Don't have any answers for this. When will the draw will resume? How about Bill C-19 implementation? We know the spring, Mohammed. That's as far as we know. That's as vague as the minister can be. Yes, minister. Do you have any answers, minister? I don't think so. He's keeping tight-lipped about it. Very tight-lipped. All right. Shale says, does a score of 486 stand a chance of making the cut over the next 2 to 3 months? If there's no program specified draws and it's purely a matter of human capital that they're basing the rounds of invitations on. Let me just pull this up here. Just going to pull up the rounds of invitations. So you're saying 486. Let's slide over here and take a look at what the history is. So the last draw was back in over a month ago, November the 23rd. It had dipped down as low as 491. At the time in which that draw occurred, there were a ton of people, 481 and higher. There were 10,000, another 13,000, 14,000, probably 15,000 people in the pool. And the rounds themselves had not exceeded 4,750. So if you do the math and you think how many are they going to do, there's people that are definitely going to be piling in at this level to increase this even more. And so your level right here, 2 to 3 months, I think it would be really hard pressed. I think that would be a challenge. Anything is possible, 2 to 3 months. But remember, Shale, the minister could start doing targeted draws. And if your occupation is within one of those targeted draws, it's possible that you could get through with a lower CRS score than what the traditional no program specified draws would suggest. Okay, amongst us, do you think IRCC will give out massive numbers of ITAs because they didn't do a draw in the last 5 to 6 weeks? No, I don't think so. If you look at how they reinitiated the draws earlier this year when they resumed the regular rounds of invitations, it was small. And so I don't anticipate like a big 10,000 ITA or round of invitation draw. If they did a 10,000 or a 15,000 all in one swoop, then absolutely it's going to push the CRS score down. But when you look at the history of the rounds of invitations, and let's slide back here and let's just take a look quickly at the previous rounds, and we scroll down, when they restarted it, you can see here for the numbers. So that's, let's go back here. Okay, so if you look at the numbers issued, that's the invitations issued is this column here, and you scroll down to when they started it back in July, you can see they were small, and they've slowly increased the number until they kind of hit 4,750 is the cap. So I don't anticipate it, but anything can happen. We saw round 176 where they did, what was it, 27,332, I think. Anything is possible. And remember, if they did a CEC only draw, that also could result in lower human capital, requirements, like CRS scores that are lower. Okay. Let's see here. Heather says, would these courses be helpful for a law student wanting to learn to practice immigration law? Absolutely, Heather. They're specifically designed to give all of the how-to stuff that you never learn with the regular conferences, that just talk at high level. This is a step-by-step walkthrough. And that's why immigration consultants, I've had new lawyers take these courses. So all of these are super helpful for that exact purpose. All right. Good to see you, Fernando. Thanks for connecting in from Winnipeg. Casey, Merry Christmas to you. And I will definitely relay that to my family and staff as well. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Heather. Yeah, I got that question. So absolutely, these would be beneficial. John, no updates. I haven't heard anything yet about family citizenship grants and where the current status is right now for them. Okay, Ravi says, do express entry draws prefer CEC over FSW, or is it just by chance that CRS are more with CECs? Okay, so Ravi, right now it all comes down to how the minister is choosing to issue these rounds of invitation. So if we go back here, you'll see that the last draw was, and all of these have been no program specified. So ultimately, whether you're CEC, FSW, Federal Skilled Trade, or even PNP, it doesn't matter. It all comes down to the actual CRS score of the lowest ranked candidate. That CRS score is what drives the ship. And so whether you're FSW or CEC, there's no there's no real preference one over another. However, where the preference comes is the extra points that are awarded. And if we go to CRS criteria here and pull this up, the preference comes from the bonus points that are awarded for Canadian experience in all of its forms. Better click that again and open it up. And so when you're looking at the points, the core human capital apply equally to pretty much everyone, except you can see there's large points that are available for Canadian work experience. And then if we scroll down here to the other additional points, actually, let's go all the way down to the bottom here. If you look at the additional points where they're being awarded, if you have a brother or sister in Canada, if you have good French language ability, which is more human capital, but you can see post-secondary experience in Canada, arranged employment in Canada, there's lots more points for those. And traditionally, you only get these in some cases when you're going through the Canadian experience class, well, at least the work experience, although federal skilled worker does, you potentially can go through the federal skilled worker program, even if you are still in school in Canada, if you have previous work experience. So foreign work experience, that is. So short answer is it's not quite that simple, and human capital really drives the ship. And, CEC or FSW is just, they could identify just CEC and do draws just for CEC, but Ravi, that hasn't been the case to this point. Okay, Shalia says, hey, Mark, my son has a visitor record when we arrived here, and now he's studying. He's 5 years old. Do I need to apply a study permit? I have to renew my study permit as well. Should I apply for him? I would just go ahead and do it. It really comes down to the school. Some school divisions, like in Calgary, are not like Ontario, where they actually want to see study permits. So you don't technically need, if he's accompanying you and you have a valid study permit, then a visitor record is, you can apply to do that. But, ultimately, there's no harm in just getting the study permit. The cost is a little bit more, but I wouldn't. It really doesn't make a big difference. It really doesn't. But you do need to make sure that this status is valid. The visitor record is extended, or if you choose to do the study permit, you can do that. It just comes down to the school divisions and sometimes what they're looking for. Sometimes I've seen school divisions demand a study permit when by law they're not required. It's not required to study, but they have the ability to make choices, and sometimes it's not worth the fight. Okay. All right. X marks the spot says, can you get a permanent residency in Canada if you have a deportation from the US and have inadmissibility issues? Well, that's where I would ring this bell right here and say, book a consult. We can take a look. Merry Christmas, George. Great to see you. Okay. George says, are Canadian citizenship applications really taking 2 years now? Does it matter which province we apply from? No, it doesn't. Ultimately, yes, that's exactly. They're not a priority. The officers are being reallocated to places where the processing times are harming people. It's really painful, George. Absolutely it is. But at this stage, yep, and you can look online and you guys can see. And we have to trust the processing times, right? The reality is, if we slide over here and look at the government website and we pull up processing times and we go here to citizenship and then grant of citizenship grant right here, you can see 24 months, and it was last updated just a week ago. So yes, I bank on those, and yes, it's possible it could come through quicker, but yeah. Okay, Ravi says, misrepresentation, worked only 22 days in KPMG, no salary since less than 1 month notice. Will it be misrep if I don't add it in my profile? Also improves my 3-year experience. Ravi, you're always in the express entry, and I recommend you take the course. When it comes to misrepresentation, you need to disclose it in your personal history. You need to disclose that time, even if it's only 22 days. It just goes in there, and it can overlap with other areas. That's not an issue. But in your profile, you don't need to include it in your work history if you're not claiming points for it. All right. Yes. Mendu says, Bill C-19 will be for economic reasons, but do you think criteria such as source country, gender could creep into the draws to achieve other factors? At this stage, I don't think so. That has not been one of the minister's mandates. Obviously international students, they could isolate just international students on postgrad work permits, but economic reasons is really labor shortages and industries that are experiencing critical labor shortages. So that's, Mendu, really, that's what's driving the ship. when it comes to source country for express entry, they can't refuse just because you're coming from Nigeria or you're coming from India. If you meet the requirements, they can't just discretionary say, oh no, we're not approving people from this country. They can slow down processing in those visa offices, as we've seen, and give special priority to other countries so that the mix of people coming in are processed in a way that's more open. Because like we've looked, and obviously applicants from India are forming like over 30% of the total applicants that are coming through. And if the minister is looking to spread that out in some way, they do it by processing. They only issue so many a year from a certain country, which then drives the processing times up. But it becomes an issue when you have service level agreements and standards that you have agreed to, which is 6 months. So, but ultimately we'll see what the minister decides to do. And X marks the spot. Yeah, I'd book a consult. If you were deported or you have other issues, in some cases it can be an issue. In some cases it may not. I give the example X here about Igor within our firm. So Igor, when he joined our firm, if I slide over here and go to our About Us and our team here, Igor came through the firm and came to Canada after him and his wife had a negative experience with an immigration attorney in the US, and they fell out of status and they were working without authorization. And we were able to get his permanent resident application approved because we disclosed everything to the government. We didn't conceal anything. And in the end, his application was approved. And now he works for us. So there are pathways forward, but I strongly recommend that you book a consult so we can sort out what your exact issues are. Yeah, foodie travel. What would be the predictions for EE start back as normal? It's hard to say. They could do a round of invitations today if they want to, but I think they're probably having holiday break and taking some time off for Christmas. So, yeah. So who knows? I've stopped prognosticating on that kind of stuff, but realistically, the minister said he's going to resume, he's going to start applying occupation specific in the spring. Well, I'd be surprised if come January, at least next week, they don't do another round of invitations. I'd be very surprised. Okay, let's see. Anya says, hey, Mark, I just want to say I got last week my approval for PR via email from IRCC. It was the best Christmas present. Your videos helped me a lot with all sorts of information. Thank you. I will give you an applause. Congratulations, Anya. That is wonderful. Wonderful. I'm so happy for you. Okay, Gurkaret says, hey, Mark, how much time a CEC file is taking to get approval? The processing time on site says 21 months. Yeah, if it's a CEC and you're in Canada, we're seeing those get processed a lot faster. But understand, some people have dependents outside of Canada, and that's what's dragging the time up. But I'd say it is more closer to 5 or 6 months or even quicker. Okay, let's see here. Emmanuel says, hey, Mark, sorry, I'm just joining. Could you please share links for the express entry, especially those organizations that give job sponsorship? Thank you. Okay, Emmanuel, the course that I offer that will help you to understand the whole process is available on the Canadian Immigration Institute website. And so if you go to the Canadian Immigration Institute, and let me just pull this up here, if I can find my link. I've got so many links open. If you go to the Canadian Immigration Institute.com site, you will there be able to access the courses, including the express entry one, which will give you information on all of it. But yeah, in terms of the, in terms of the organizations that give job sponsorship, that is not, there's no such thing as that really. Ultimately, individual companies might be recruiting for employers, and I may have some more information in the future as we move forward with some of our companies, and I may share that with you guys. But at this stage, yeah, there really isn't much in terms of a list of organizations that have jobs available. Okay, yes, Anurag, I said express entry job prediction. How about next week? And we'll say if it's no program specified, I'll go with next week, and let's slide over here and see. So the last one was 491. We haven't had draws for a month. And if we look historically at where it was, let's go back one more time. We're having some fun here, aren't we? Why not? Okay, so if we have November, and then if we went like a full month before that, 496, and then we look at how many people are probably piling in, I'm going to go with probably around 496. That's what I'm going to say. 496 and next week. That'll be my guess. Why not? We're all trying. We're just guessing, aren't we? Okay, Rashid, good to see you from London. Okay. My postgrad extended once is expiring March 1st. My TR to PR application is under process. What to do now? Well, your TR to PR should grant you the ability to extend your work permit. But once again, Rashid, I recommend you book a consult. See, the TR to PR, let me just see if I can pull this up here. Okay, if you have an application under the TR to PR pathway, you have the ability to get, if you know, let's close this. I don't need that anymore. You have the ability to get an open work permit to extend your stay in Canada. Okay. And in some cases, now you said you're not going to be subject to the automatic renewal, but you will have the ability to extend your stay if you meet the requirements here that are listed. So I recommend you take a look at that. And that should give you a little bit more specific direction and guidance on options. But Rashid, you can always book a consult. We can walk you through it. Pritpal, like visitor visas from India, well, you can apply for them. You know, there's nothing stopping you. There's a lot of people that are. Processing times are high, and there's a lot involved in it. But yeah, I recommend that if you have questions, more detailed, book a consult. And it's always just in the link within the show notes of the video. If we go back here, I'll actually just show you guys here. So if I go into mine here, okay. So when you're here on the YouTube channel, and this goes the same if you're on YouTube or otherwise, but if you scroll down here and we open it up, you can see there's the link for booking a consult, and then all the courses are all here. So you can click on all of these links, subscribe to our weekly newsletter, all that kind of stuff. So it's all available for you. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, Unique says, what is the discount code for the courses? Don't know why it's not showing on my end. Okay, so if you log in, let's go back once again to the courses here. When you connect in, you should be taken. Actually, let's see where maybe the link is taking it to the old place. Let's see here. Just give me a second. Okay, so it should take you here when you click on the link in the description on the YouTube channel here. So if you click on that link, and it should take you here. And then when you click on buy now, well, even if you go back here, let me just back up here. You can see coupon is right here. Boxing Day 50 CII, that's Canadian Immigration Institute. And then when you're subscribing to it, then you just enter it right here in the coupon code. And when you punch that coupon code in and then click redeem, then it reduces it, and then you can fill the rest of the information out. All right. So that's how you do it, Unique. Receive it. Why am I being unemployed matter for my citizenship application? Well, it doesn't really. It's just you're disclosing what you've been doing, but it doesn't disqualify you if you're unemployed. So that shouldn't be an issue. Kira says, hello, Mark, wanted to mention I got PR and will be moving to Canada next year. Christmas present from IRCC. I will give you another one of these. Kira, that is awesome. I'm so happy for you. Okay, Shalia says, thanks, Mark, for your answer. Appreciate it. God bless always. You too, my friend. Okay. Mendy says, do you think under Bill C-19, PNPs will be bulked in with everyone and meeting certain NOC codes, or would they be automatically separated on the strength of provincial backing? Yeah, they're going to be separated. They're not going to be pulled in the same way. C-19 is basically designed to manage everybody else. The provinces have separate agreements. They measure the candidacy of applicants, and then IRCC vets the background and goes through that process. When they're going through express entry, they're not like PNPs they're still gonna be fine. Okay. All right. So this is a great one. So another Facebook user says, hey, what is the best path for me? I'm a civil engineer with 8 years of experience in the industry, 35 years old, express entry or provincial programs. That's where I ring the bell and say, slide over and book a consult with our team right here. And all you have to do is just click on speak to a lawyer, and it's super easy. Select the lawyer you want to book a consult with, and then you can check to see when the next availability. Alicia has appointments scheduled for tomorrow. I've actually opened my calendar up for today and tomorrow. So if you go to me here and you look at my availability, I still have, well, apparently I've got a 3 p.m. one, and I have lots of space open. I wasn't going to do any consults, but I decided to open things up. So just because I know a lot of people are just don't get support during the break, like they just don't. Most offices close, and so it's really hard for people to be able to find the legal help that they need during the break. So as a firm, we made a decision that we were going to be more available so that we could help people. Okay. Okay. Sukanpreet says, for Express Entry profile, I get paid bi-weekly like every other week. One paycheck is only 56 hours instead of 60, which is 30 plus 30 both weeks. Will this 56 hours weeks be counted or not? Okay, I get paid bi-weekly. Okay, so payment doesn't matter. It's what you actually worked. So if you only worked every other week, then you're going to have to explain to IRCC how that plays out. But so basically, if you are if every 2-week period you need to have 60 hours in that 2-week period to be able to demonstrate that you're working full time. So 56 is not full time if it's over a 2-week period. Okay. Okay, Mahiri, I strongly recommend that you book a consult. You've got a lot in here. You say, will there be any possibility of the tier 2221 in the coming targeted draws and Express Entry? We just don't know, other than the industries that I've demonstrated and talked about in my top 6 takeaways, that blog post that I did. And so as I indicated before, if we slide back here to this blog post that I did, these are the sectors specifically that the minister highlighted. It doesn't mean that others won't be there, but these are ones that he specifically talked about. So ultimately, whether or not that's going to work for your NOC or not, we just don't know. Obviously, if it's in demand, like you indicated in the other provinces, it's highly possible that IRCC could also see that as an in-demand, occupation. I understand postgrads expiring in 2023, scores lower at 421, and ultimately the best option is to go to a province where you're not having to compete, and that's definitely not BC and Ontario. And if you went to school in one of those places, well, you can't really come to Alberta because you need to have studied in Alberta. So then you look to the Atlantic provinces or maybe some other ones where you can work and then have an employer apply for a labor market impact assessment. Mahiri, I recommend you book a consult. This is something we strategize with our clients all the time, and you need to get some good, solid information and advice and a roadmap and a plan going forward before it's really too late. Okay. Liliani says, hey, Mark, for PR applications, is it advisable to reveal outstanding bank debt when presenting proof of funds? Please give tips. Thank you. Well, it's not only advisable, but it's mandatory. And let's go here to the completeness check. This is a mandatory requirement. And for those who are submitting Express Entry applications, if we go here and we go to, we'll just search for funds, you'll see here that in your letter, you have an obligation. The applicant should provide an official letter that lists all current bank and investment accounts as well as outstanding debts. And so you don't have the ability to choose whether or not to include it. It becomes an important part. Now, it's not fatal if you have debt. There are ways that I teach in my course and that we work directly with our clients to help them understand how best to present their situation. And Liliani, if you have debt, there's ways that you can describe it in your letters of explanation in such a way that it's not going to be a barrier to you. It's not just a simple matter of I have this much in asset and this much in debt, and the debt subtracts off of the asset, and then what you have left is your proof of funds. It's not that. It's not. You have the ability to show how you can service the debt and still have the 6 months or more, and that's what I deal with my clients all the time. So I recommend you consider booking a consult. Okay. Ashutosh says, hey, Mark, do I need to update my profile if I'm planning to study a postgrad course in the UK or Australia? Well, if you've already submitted your EAPR, then you're going to update with the address history. And I would update them with that through the web form. I would. Okay, Kath says, Grace Kath says, hey, Mark, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you too. May I just ask if the experience of a study permit holder counts for Canadian experience, because we are now allowed to work full-time? No. So for the purposes of express entry, okay, when you're counting Canadian experience for express entry purposes, the barrier still exists whether you're allowed to work full-time or part-time. It's only once you're on your postgrad or you've submitted it that you then have the ability to start counting that work history. There were exceptions with the TR to PR pathway in the past, but for the purposes of express entry, yeah, it doesn't work that way. Okay, let's see here. Lisa says, hello, we'll apply for skilled worker under the PNP, no CSC points. I have a large business loan granted. Okay, so you say for skilled worker under the PNP express entry, no CEC points. Okay, so federal skilled worker. Okay, I have a large business loan guaranteed personally. Shall I include this business loan in my source of fund calculation? Thanks. Lisa, absolutely, you need to disclose it. The key is how you do it. If you do it correctly in a properly worded letter of explanation, it's possible that you can justify and explain how that's not going to be an impediment to you settling in Canada and the necessary funds you need to get settled. But you have to take it seriously. You do have to disclose it, and if you do it properly, yeah, always when it's done correctly, you can remove the negative potential consequences that arise. Okay. Nisha says, if an employer, and we're just about to the end of our live Q&A today, if an employer already has an LMIA and I apply to a job, food service supervisor, does the applicant name have to be mentioned on the LMIA for them to get that work permit? Yes, absolutely it does. So when you have unnamed LMIAs or bulk LMIAs, the employer absolutely needs your name, date of birth, and citizenship to be added to that LMIA for you to then be able to use it for your work permit. So if they don't, then someone's trying to scam you. Okay, Amitage says, hey, Mark, wishing you and your team a very happy new year. Have a great year ahead. Thank you so much, Amitage. And you too, my friend. You too. Okay, Verpal says, hey, does 485 any chances? You know what? We'll have to see. And as far as the NOC code, 41210, I don't know either. We'll just have to see. Okay, Guru says, hello, sir. How long does it take to clear background check of PR application? It entirely depends on the country. It can take as simple as, a day to longer if they have to seek some information from foreign jurisdictions in order to do the background checks. Okay, and Finn says, hey, Mark, can I apply to the ONIP somehow or just wait for them to pick me via the express entry? Okay, so certain types of OINP applications are employer-driven. They're job offer supported. Others are passive, like the human capital priority stream, where you just have to be in the range where they pull people out of the pool. So the answer is really both. Okay, Sukan Preet says, last week I worked 26 hours instead of 30, and I'm completing my experience on the 4th of January, but I'm quitting my job on January 9th, which will be more than 1 year, and my hours will be more than 1560 in total. I'm just asking, the week I work for 26 will be counted or not, like those 26 will be counted or not. Sukan Preet, I'm not going to give you direction on that one until I know a whole lot more. So I'm clicking on the link. I recommend you book a consult because I'll be honest, when you're cutting it that close, the only advice I can give you is don't quit your job. Like, why are you quitting it? I would keep and I would try to get more and get a buffer so that you're not in a situation where there's any doubt. I suspect you're going through CEC. And if that's the case, it really doesn't make a big difference. But you just don't, I don't want to give you any advice and say, yeah, it's no problems. You quit your job and then IRCC comes back and says, no, it's deficient. So that's something that I would only address in the context of a consult. All right. Okay, guys. There we have it. I'm going to shut it down for today. Thank you so much for joining me in another Express Entry Live Q&A. As always, this is sponsored by Holthe Immigration Law, which is our law firm. And if you want to learn more about us, all you have to do is slide over to our firm right here. And there's a ton of information. We have information on all the various types of immigration applications, family and visit and work and study. Remember, we've got the study permit course here. The masterclass just finished last week. Well, I guess a little over a week. It was an awesome group of people. And you can contact us to start the process, but we love working with you. We have a different approach. And if you want to retain us to help you, this direct lawyer to client collaboration is how we work with our clients. There's no middle people. This is why we do what we do. And for the balance of the year, we have our legal fees are here as well. You can click on this link and see what we charge for our services. These fees are all going to be going up in the new year. Apparently the whole world is becoming more expensive, but our fees are going to be increasing in the new year. So if you want to take advantage of these fees before they go up, you need to access that before the new year. All right, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in, all of your questions, and I wish you all the very, very best this wonderful holiday season. Remember that we have within the Canadian Immigration Institute, we've got this special Boxing Week sale that expires 50% off selected courses that expires at the end of the year. So if you're one of those individuals that was waiting and wondering if Mark was ever going to give a discount, I did decide to do that through this Boxing Week. So all you need to do is just connect into the Canadian Immigration Institute, choose the course, use coupon code BOXINGDAY50CII, which is Canadian Immigration Institute, and you'll get 50% off. It expires December 31st. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining, and we will see you again in our next live. Take care and Merry Christmas.